What's up, team? How we doing? Let's get this camera here. Oh, yeah, look at that. It's coming up on week 18 in the NFL, and who knows what we should have to do? Nobody really knows. We gotta just take it on the chin for 1 year and then figure it out next year. But really, is it that different from week 17 last year? I don't know. We'll look into it. Also, is this going to be a different year from all the years because we have COVID stuff to worry about? We have teams not knowing how to navigate a week 18. We have teams not really being comfortable with figuring out a 17-game schedule. There's been a lot of weird things about this year. So I have a couple hard and fast rules that we're going to go by. We're going to make picks. As of now, I have 3 on there. That could always change. We might sometimes add some at Mike Mush Sports on Twitter and Instagram, but on the Twitter is where we really post up to the minute, right up into the kickoff, through Sunday, updates to those picks in case lines move or things need to be changed. But I have 3 picks that I really like, and I have a couple more that we'll break down. The biggest rule I'm taking for this week is just stay away from the games where things don't mean anything, where teams don't have incentive, especially when both teams don't have incentive. I don't know why I put an extra number for that. The point is, try to take the obvious stuff this week. That's what we're going to go for. So some of these games I'm not going to break down heavily, but some of them we'll go deeper into. Going back to Monday's picks, we hit on Steelers money line, last ride with Ben Roethlisberger. I will not be touching that Steelers-Ravens game this week. I'll tell you that much. But I can tell you that I like the Steelers better than the Ravens for pool purposes. Anyway, let's get right into it. Let's dive in. Picture in picture. Okay. So we got the playoff standings. We'll refer back to that. Now, there's been some wild line movement in some of these games. And that is causing me to want to stay away from things that I might normally take. We'll see where we end up at the end of the show. Dallas, Philly, I'm just going to go over the games that I'm not interested in from the get-go so we can move right past them. Dallas, Philly, I don't think either of these teams have enough that matters. I mean, Philly's playing for absolutely nothing. Dallas is going to be middle of the pack no matter what. This game, it's a divisional game. I'm just not interested. I don't know. The Saturday games are fun, but I'm just going to leave that one alone. Kansas City, Denver, we will go into. But look at that line movement, man. From 3 to 10.5. We'll talk about it. Green Bay, Detroit. Not interested at all. The Jordan Love experience, I'm not about. And if anything, in pools, I think I'm taking Detroit just because Green Bay they're not playing for anything. They locked up the 1 seed. They're not going to play any of their half-injured people, let alone people who are really injured. And Detroit's just been covering all year. I think I can't remember exactly what the stat was. I shared it on the Instagram, so follow at Mike Mush Sports. But for a team that has not a lot of wins, they have like the highest cover percentage in the modern era, which is crazy. Chicago, Minnesota, another game that I just won't be touching at all. Neither team is playing for anything. New England, Miami. New England is playing for something. Miami is not. We'll get back to that one. Indy, Jacksonville. You know how I feel about the Jags if you've been watching the show throughout the year. Just don't take them under any circumstance. Buffalo and the Jets we will talk about. Carolina and Tampa we will talk about again. Just fade Panthers. I mean, this isn't rocket science. By now, if you know me at all, you fade the Panthers. Sam Darnold isn't beating Tom Brady. I'm sorry. It's just not happening. I don't care what the circumstances are, but I have some more takes on that one. Tennessee, Houston. Tennessee has nothing to play for, really. They want to win, but that's it. And it's Houston. I mean, there is some stuff to play for, I guess. You got to lock up the number 1 seed. Technically, the Chiefs can still take it, but Tennessee has the tiebreaker. I don't think they're going to struggle that much with Houston, though. Is Derrick Henry actually going to play in that game? Because it seemed like he might. Yeah, look at him go. I mean, he looks ready for next week. I don't think they're going to play him much. We'll get back to that. I'm just crossing games off the list for now. Washington and the Giants, cross it off. Get the Sharpie, get the white out, rip up the paper, throw it in the garbage, burn the garbage. Get out of here. New Orleans, Atlanta. This game actually matters. I won't be touching it at all because I just don't. This division is weird. New Orleans needs the game, though. They absolutely can make the playoffs because if San Francisco loses to the Rams and New Orleans wins, they're in the playoffs. So just insane. But I don't want to touch this game just because it's a weird game. Last time they played, it came down to the wire. It always seems to. Both these teams are kind of bad, despite the fact that one of them might be a playoff team. Ridiculous. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, we talked about it matters for Pittsburgh. I guess it's not going to matter. They're not going to make it. Baltimore's already eliminated. I did see something that over the last bunch of years, decade plus, maybe 2 decades, when these two teams play and the spread is more than 3, the underdog is 17-2, I believe, against the spread, which is insane. There's a ton of metrics that say these games will be close. It's not rocket science, I know. And a bunch of rocket scientists must just take offense to that all the time. But how do you take Baltimore as a favorite here? I don't really understand. So for pool purposes, I like Pittsburgh, but we're not going to go much further than that. Cincinnati, Cleveland, another one that's like Cincinnati technically, I guess, can get the 1 seed if Tennessee and Kansas City lose. Won't happen. So as of now, they're just playing for not much. Cleveland's already out. There's going to be backups in this game. I just don't want to touch it. Seattle, Arizona, again, Seattle's season is over, but they can play spoiler in their division. Arizona's been in a free fall. I know they beat Dallas, but it doesn't erase all the problems they have, so I'm not going to touch that one either. San Francisco and the Rams we will get in on. Chargers, Vegas is the best game of the week. We'll get in on that too. So where do we begin? Let's start with Kansas City, Denver, since it's a Saturday game. This is Kansas City or nothing. It has to be. I'm not taking Drew Lock in a football game, ever. Remind me of that if he ever comes back and improves. Denver has issues in their secondary with COVID. I think that's part of the reason this spread jumped up so much, but 3 to 10.5 is really crazy when both the quarterbacks are not. This isn't like Denver had a good quarterback that's out now. So that I want to lay the 11, but it's scaring me how much 8.5 points to jump from 1 week to the next. Congratulations if you got the look-ahead line on Kansas City. I'm thinking to tease this one to go back down to where the spread should have been. And I know that's probably not the best move odds-wise, and people should be wary of it. I just can't take Denver. Denver is on the list. I know they're not as bad as Jacksonville, but they're on that Jacksonville list when they have Drew Lock as quarterback. I won't take them. And so this is looking more to me like a Kansas City tease and or money line as a sweetener to a bunch of other things in a parlay than it is laying the 11, only because, and it might get up to 11.5. It's trending that direction, especially with the Denver corners out. But man, 8.5 point jump, maybe more. It's a little too many for me. So I like the Chiefs, and they have to win, and they're going to want to go in feeling good, and they might smash Denver. But this also could be a scenario where they're up a lot and they rest some people in the second half because Drew Lock isn't going to have a comeback on them. So that's something to consider. Maybe Kansas City first half, although I'm not huge on those bets. But this week, a lot of them make sense, especially since rest might come into play down the stretch of some of these games. I think next year, and maybe even in the playoffs, I'm going to look more at first half bets. But more next year. I got to remember to do that because it makes sense. And in some of these scenarios, it really makes sense. Instead, I'm going to do the teaser format. We'll get back to that at the end of the show. Said we're not doing Green Bay, Detroit. New England is another one where I'm like, okay, this should be pretty straightforward. They have to play. They want to go in looking good. They want to get their quarterback in a rhythm. This seems like a reasonable spot to lay the 6.5, but first of all, it's such an easy teaser number, I can't really get myself away from it. Secondly, I do think Brian Flores will want to stick it to Bill Belichick and the Patriots, as he's from that coaching tree. Thirdly, Miami's defense does bring heat. They provide problems to opposing offenses. Miami's at home. We've seen some cracks in the armor of Mac Jones, although I still believe in him to get this done and to have them going in feeling good. I don't doubt that they'll win the game, but this another one where the line jumped from 2.5 to 6.5. They're just juicing these lines insanely to get you to not take favorites. So that's why I'm going to land on a teaser here with this one too. Just because all the reasons I named, I don't want to take a touchdown dog on the road in a divisional game, especially when the over-under is like 39.5. You're laying a touchdown. I don't feel good about that, but I feel good about them winning the game. They might cover the spread. I don't want to take Miami here at all. I worry about Tua against Bill Belichick. So yeah, that's a teaser move for me. I think they really need to. New England has to be going in, trying to win, praying that the Bills lose to the Jets. They can still steal the division. And even just to get the rookie quarterback playing well, they need to offensively be in a rhythm. But their defense should shut down Miami. The under here does make sense, which is also why I don't want to lay the 6.5. I think it can be a low-scoring game. You look back at the first time these two teams played, and it was a close game, which you expect, but you do wonder how New England didn't win. Tua turned it over. Mac Jones did not. They ran much better than Miami did. Their receiving numbers are on par with Miami. Waddle hadn't really gotten it going yet, although he scored a touchdown. But then you figure it out with the fumbles. They fumbled 4 times. They only lost 2 of them, but they fumbled 4 times, and ball security was an issue. It was a rookie quarterback in his first game, when he looked pretty good too, but still. And you look at the team stats, and you're like, okay, they dominated time of possession. They had a lot of penalties, which is uncharacteristic of their team. And when it does bite them, it bites them hard. Excuse me, because they're not used to dealing with that kind of stuff mostly. But yards per play, I mean, everything, total yards, favors the Patriots. First downs. They really should have won this game. They just didn't. And so I think it could be very similar in that it's close, but New England ekes out this one. I can't imagine they're going to get swept by the Dolphins twice. Dolphins have beaten them 2 in a row, which is another reason I know Belichick is going to want to come out and dominate this game. Patriots defense is really good against a Dolphins offense that is mediocre. Patriots offense is probably average, and Dolphins defense is average, although I'd probably give them better than that. The turnover differential is weird in the first game, but Patriots are much better on turnover differential normally. And yeah, I'm just comfortable taking New England to win this game straight up. So we'll throw them in a teaser. Indy, Jacksonville. Look, Indy's not going to lose to Jacksonville. They're just not. I'll throw their money line into a parlay as a sweetener, same way I did with the Chiefs. But I can't. I mean, again, you're boosting this line by a touchdown. What happened from last week to this week that a 7-point difference happened between Indy and Jacksonville? What, that Carson Wentz is able to practice this week? That's the touchdown difference? I just don't think so. And I know that they're just boosting these lines to move you off of them, because they know that this is the last week possible that you get any of these huge favorites. So they're trying to make the regular line, they're trying to force you to tease the regular line to get it down to where it probably should be. Same thing as what I said about the Chiefs. Which is another reason why teasers probably, if I were giving advice and actually following it, I think teasers probably aren't the best play this week, just on the odds perspective, because these lines are so juiced. But I'll still find myself doing some of them. Not in this game, though. And I like Indy to win, but, you got to look at them and you're like, yeah, they have to win the game. They have something to play for. But if they're up 14 in the second half and Jacksonville can't score at all, are they going to call the dogs off a little bit? Maybe they don't want to run Jonathan Taylor into the ground. Maybe Hines plays a little more. Maybe Marlon Mack even gets some carries. I don't know if he's even active anymore ever. But the point remains, they don't have to do much to beat Jacksonville. And so if they win by 14, it's not going to shock me. So laying 15.5 is like, all right, I don't feel great about it. In a pool, I'm not taking Jacksonville. I'm never taking Jacksonville. But Indy money line as a sweetener is much better to me, and I don't want to touch the teasers either. The Jets in Buffalo, this over-under is crazy low. And it has plummeted again. 45 they opened at, and now it's at 40.5. I don't think there's bad weather in Buffalo. Can't spell. Sunday there's going to be rain, but it's warm. Showers and wind. I mean, all right, Weather Channel. Would you just... Don't you know we're trying to run a thing here? This is a late game, which is weird for these two teams, so it should clear up. No snow, wind 20 miles an hour, but not, that's about half of what it was during that terrible Bills-Patriots game. I just feel like the Jets have been pretty frisky lately, and there's no reason why they're going to roll over. They've been on a little bit of a roll. Zach Wilson's feeling good about himself. This is not a spot where I want to take the Jets, but 16.5 is just too many. Funny enough, this moved the other way. All these spreads getting super inflated with from the look-ahead line to the regular line. And this one's look-ahead was 17. Now we're at 16.5, even though the over-under plummeted. What's that about? That tells me that they didn't have the guts to juice Buffalo even more because they're afraid of the Jets. Who knew? I think the Jets can score a little in this. I think the Jets' first half team total is 6.5 right now, which is insane. I'm not in the business of betting the Jets. I'm too close to home on it, but that's a game. That's like, come on, just to find the end zone. And in general, a 17-point spread with a 40-point over-under implies that the Jets are going to get absolutely shut out or close to it. And I just don't think that's the case. I think they'll be able to move the ball a little, even if it's garbage time. So if you want a Jets team total rather than taking the points, I get that. I think I'm going to lean towards the Jets with 17 points or 16.5 in a pool format. But Buffalo obviously should win the game. They need the game. They're motivated. This is another one where you're like, all right, they're up by 14. They let their foot off the gas in the fourth quarter. Maybe they even just win by 7 as the Jets score a meaningless one. Zach Wilson rides off into the sunset feeling good about himself. I could even, I mean, this is crazy, but if you wanted to do like a wild underdog parlay, I could put the Jets in there at really, really high odds. I don't know. Something about the Jets trending upward makes me feel better. But Buffalo needs to win to stay ahead of New England in the playoff standings, just in case they play against each other, which is impactful. They're going to want that game to be in Buffalo. They want to play as many Buffalo games as they can, obviously. But yeah, I don't feel great about Buffalo. I like them on the money line, I guess. I like, yeah, I was going to say I like both sides on the money line almost. I will be throwing Buffalo money line into a heavy favorite parlay as one of our picks. And if you really liked an underdog parlay, just odds wise, I realize it never makes sense to bet both sides of a money line. But if you're just looking for a super lottery ticket to take, like, I didn't think this one out and it's not on my card, but if it's Jets money line and it's, boy, I don't love any of the other dogs. Maybe Houston money line, just because, again, I like Tennessee in my parlay with all the other favorites because I think they're just motivated and take care of business. But, you know, maybe if you even liked Pittsburgh money line with the Jets money line as just like a huge payoff, or San Francisco money line makes sense. That's a divisional game that should be close. Something like that. I'm not doing it, but I understand for the wild payout why someone would want to, if that helps you understand where I'm at with that Jets game. Let's move on to Carolina-Tampa. Carolina-Tampa, look, Carolina is in more of a free fall than ever. Tampa needs to try to get the 2 seed, so they're going to want to win, and they're going to be scoreboard watching in the Rams game, which they're at the same time, so that's not really going to help each other too much. I see a world where Tampa gets out to a big lead, and lets their foot off the gas. I refuse to take Sam Darnold or Cam Newton or whoever the hell is playing against Tom Brady. But Tampa's wildly banged up. And this spread went all the way the other way. It was 16.5 down to 8 now. And so I think the same way I think we're getting some value in the other spots and forcing us to tease games, I think you're probably, I'm not going to tease Carolina. Carolina's on the never bet list. But it's funky. And I think you're getting some value on Tampa. I also know that there's some player prop stuff that comes into play in Buffalo. I think Diggs needs 6 catches and like 200 yards or something to hit a $1.5 million bonus for both of those. I know Brady has some player incentives. I know Gronk needs like 7 catches or something. He has some player incentives. So you got to look at that when it comes to player props if you're interested in those. I didn't put them on. But for daily fantasy, Diggs, Gronk are 2 people I'll be definitely looking at because of their incentive stuff. They're going to want to get them the ball for sure. But yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with Tampa here. This is another one where first half line might make sense on Tampa just because they might let their foot off the gas in the fourth quarter. Even if you want to like live bet Carolina really late in this game, assuming that Brady might not play the second half, they're not going to get a bye. They're going to want to rest as many people as possible. They're really injured. They almost lost to the Jets, which makes me think they're going to want to come out and stomp Carolina and make a statement, and they should. But also, this is the team that almost got beat by the Jets. And they're not really healthier this week than they were last week. Plus, they're down AB. And they have incentive to rest people because they're not getting a bye. So this is more of a money line play and a teaser play, getting it down to just win the game, basically, or within a field goal, than it is taking the 8 or the 8.5. Even though I'm so out on Carolina, it's ridiculous. There's just a lot of factors to this one. So I don't want to overthink it. I want to get them just to win the game where they definitely will. And that's what I'm going to do. Tennessee, Houston. Again, this one, like the Jets and the Bills, I can kind of see value on both sides of the money line. I can't see myself laying the 10.5 with Tennessee just because Houston's been frisky and good. I like Davis Mills. I don't think Tennessee is worthy of a 1 seed, even though they're getting it. And yeah, I think Houston's going to make them fight for it. So if you wanted to put them in a high-paying underdog parlay kind of thing, I would take the money line instead of the 10.5 for Houston. But I'm comfortable with Tennessee needing this game so badly. Same thing as the Bills. Like, they just can't lose. You can't lose. You got to throw everything you can at winning this game, even if it's close late. So be it. So I'll throw Tennessee into a money line parlay. And again, I'm keep talking myself into these underdog parlays with the Jets, Houston, and Pittsburgh, which I don't think I'll have on my card right now. It won't be part of my official picks, but if you see it on the Twitter at Mike Mush Sports on Sunday morning, you know what happened. The odds really made me want to go in on it. And it's just a hedge against my own picks, I guess. But I understand if you're just looking for enjoying yourself in Week 18, worried about all the different scenarios and playoff scenarios and rest and COVID, and you just want to throw a flyer out there for massive payout, maybe take the Houston money line. I don't know. Washington and the Giants, I'd rather drink bleach. New Orleans, Atlanta, I'm not putting in anything. I'm not even going to bother to break it down too much. New Orleans needs the game badly. Their defense is very good. Atlanta is very bad. But I don't want to take New Orleans as a 3.5-point road favorite. I just don't. This game will happen at the same time as San Francisco is in the Rams too. They are very, very tied together in terms of who needs what for the playoffs. And, it's a stay away for me. I don't like Taysom Hill. I don't like the New Orleans offense. I think that game could be close. It's almost like Pittsburgh's Baltimore. Both these teams are the same. These games are the same to me. I'll break them down at the same time because it's like, why, of all the things on the board, again, stick with the teams that need it. So New Orleans makes that metric, right? But divisional games, there's divisional games everywhere. But these two really feel like rivalry divisional games. Maybe that's redundant, but it feels true. And I'm just not trusting New Orleans as a road favorite. At least Pittsburgh you're getting as a road dog of 3.5. I would say the same thing if New Orleans was at home and the spread was like 10. I'm like, no, I'm not laying that many points with a bad New Orleans offense. It won't shock me if this is a field goal game. They need the game. They got to win, but there's so many other things on the board that I like more than that. Cincinnati, Cleveland, we're out. We're out on Seattle, Arizona. Now, San Francisco and the Rams is an interesting one because San Francisco has a ton of corners and safeties in COVID protocol. Now, all of them can play by Sunday if they clear and start to feel better. It's past the 5 days. They got put on early in the week. And San Francisco crushed the Rams. And Shanahan has owned McVay over the years. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's been bad. We did it on one of the previous shows. You can go back to the last time those two played. So, my inclination is to take San Francisco with the points. But it is very scary that an already bad secondary could be decimated by COVID and injury and could get absolutely shredded by Cooper Kupp. Now, the other side of that coin is Matthew Stafford has been terrible. He's thrown a lot of picks. He's thrown a lot of balls that could have been picked. The numbers could be worse than they are, not better. He's been really terrible in the first half of games. All those interceptions have come like really early, first drive, first quarter. And then in the second half, he's found a way to turn it on. On the other side, we don't even know who's playing quarterback. So I get if this is probably a stay away for a lot of people. But this is such an important game for both sides. San Francisco is fighting and clawing for their playoff lives. That I can see a scenario, and I will take it, and I like a scenario, where it's 4.5, I can tease it up past 10. And I just think this game is going to be closer than that. Even if the downside is if the Rams get off to a hot start, which they have not done at all against anyone not named Jacksonville, then it's going to be hard to see a Trey Lance-led team fight all the way back, although he had a good second half last week. But I'm just trusting that San Francisco will get some of their players back. Stafford will struggle in the first half. This game will end up close, and if I'm teasing San Francisco up, I get them in a safe cover spot, even if they lose. So I feel good about that. I don't feel good about the total. I don't feel good about taking the Rams at all. I know they're on a winning streak, but they haven't impressed me in that winning streak. They beat Baltimore, but they should have won by more. They beat Jacksonville. A lot of these games where I'm like, yeah, they won, but. And so that's stopping me from taking them. And San Francisco, again, this is a team that has owned their opponent historically, will be playing in good weather, is healthy on offense. We don't know which quarterback, but I don't think Trey Lance is even necessarily a huge drop-off from Jimmy G. We don't know that. I don't think it moves the line that much. It didn't last week. And so just knowing how much San Francisco dominates the middle of the field in this matchup, how badly Debo and Kittle crushed the Rams, and I'm sure they'll be ready for some of it, but I don't know if there's adjustments that they can make to completely neutralize that advantage. So I'm going to be teasing San Francisco up, and that'll definitely be part of the picks. Now, Chargers in Vegas, this is the game of the week. They flexed it into the night game. This is a playoff game. This is winning in. I know there's been a lot of memes about if Jacksonville beats Indianapolis, these teams can tie and both get in, so maybe they'll just kneel it out. I was talking to my friend Sal, which was funny. He's a huge Chargers fan. Shout out to him. And he was saying they should bring back Rivers to just kneel it out and get a tie on his record. And if they do throw it, he can show Herbert how to not throw it 900 miles an hour in the red zone because he can't even do that. So that would be funny. But the reason it's a meme is because Jacksonville will never win a football game. So, bummer. I wish we could get to see that. As for the real game, I think I don't understand why Vegas is good. I mean, nobody does. Everyone is lying if they tell you they know what's going on with this. But they are good. They keep proving everyone wrong over and over again unless they're playing the Chiefs, where they get blown out. But they're not playing the Chiefs. They're playing the Chargers, who have a beatable defense. Waller is probably going to be back for Vegas. They're healthier than they have been over the past couple of weeks. This Chargers D doesn't impress me. And you're getting a home team with what should be a pretty loud crowd in a playoff game. at +3 when these teams are relatively even, aside from the fact that we think Vegas is bad, but every single week they prove us wrong. So why am I laying points on the road with the Chargers? Yeah, they're better on paper, but every week they seem to play a lot of close games against good competition. Historically, the Chargers games always come down to field goals, especially inside of the division. Vegas just never goes away. They're capable of comebacks. I don't love taking them +3, but I love teasing them up. Same way I love San Francisco teased up. Because in what world is this not a good close game? I just imagine it will be. I haven't trusted the Chargers to blow out anyone all year. They have on occasion. The only one that I really liked them laying points was against Drew Lock. This ain't Drew Lock. Derek Carr has an opportunity to play in his first playoff game, I believe. I don't think he's ever played in the playoffs. Because that year that they were good, I think he got hurt. And Connor Cook started? Am I making that up? Maybe I am. No. No playoff stats. That one year that they were awesome was 2016 playoff results, Raiders, Texans. Connor Cook, 18 for 45. Woof. So you can imagine since then, Derek Carr has been chomping at the bit. It's a horse pun. I've been watching the show Yellowstone. It's pretty fun to get into a playoff game. They're going to want it really bad. So are the Chargers. So if I can get +10 with the home team that never seems to lose when you think they're going to lose and is getting their best offensive player back. And by the way, Hunter Renfrow can't be guarded. He's been unreal throughout the second half of the season. Look at this. I mean, 8 receptions, 9 receptions, 13, then 3 and 3, but then 7, and he has 3 touchdowns in that span. He catches everything. He's always open. And if you get Waller in there in both of them, it's going to be actually a little hard to slow down that offense. You forget how good Waller is. He might remind us. Let's make sure he's definitely playing. But I think he should be back because he cleared COVID and then didn't play, or he cleared injury and then got COVID. Game time decision, but I think he's going to play. Josh Jacobs question. I mean, everyone's going to suit up, right? Knee and ribs, they're going to suit up. So, yeah, I like Vegas. I mean, the public, I would imagine, is going to hit the Chargers money line, which is also reasonable. But I'd rather take Vegas +10 on a teaser than I would Chargers money line. Chargers blow a lot of stuff. I don't put it past them to blow it. So those are my leans. Before we get to the actual picks, I want to look back at last year, week 17, and try to figure out, COVID aside and extra game aside, what happens to teams that need it versus teams that don't versus games that are nonsensical. And this is just 1 year of sample size, but I think it's fun to look back at. The Bills needed the game against the Dolphins. They dropped 56. The Dolphins also needed that game. The Dolphins could have won that game, and they faded. So what does that mean for the Dolphins this week? Maybe they fade again. Maybe they prove that they're just a team that can beat bad teams but can't beat good teams. They showed it last year in the final week of the season. I don't think it's crazy to say that might happen again, which is why we're putting New England in a teaser probably. Not probably, but, we're just trying to keep suspense up until I announce the picks. The Ravens needed a game, crushed a team that didn't need a game. Okay? Steelers and Browns both needed this game. Browns came out on top. Again, AFC North games are very close. That's why I'm leaning towards Pittsburgh with the points, but that won't be in my picks. But AFC North, when you both need it, I can't imagine that Ravens-Steelers game not being close. But this game was irrelevant. Who knows what would happen? It ended up with 72 points in a Vikings-Lions game. Jets and Pats, this was a meaningless game. Cowboys and Giants was a meaningless game, ended up close. Falcons and Bucks. The Bucks needed the game. The Falcons did not. They ended up blowing them out. The Packers needed the game. The Bears did not. They ended up blowing them out. The Raiders wanted to finish 500. I don't know if it mattered in playoff scenarios. It might have. I don't think it did, though. And they end up beating the Raiders in the Broncos in a close one. But I don't think that one mattered, so that would be crossed off of our list currently. The Colts needed a game against the Jaguars. They play again. They get it. 14. I said it might be 14. I can see this going the exact same way, honestly. Look at that. They were up 20-7. It might have been different than that, but we don't need to go into it. And then they just coasted in the second half, and that's exactly what I said about this week's Colts game. Take the money line. Don't lay the 16 or whatever. Chiefs-Chargers. Now, this is not a scenario where a team needed it against a team that didn't, because Chiefs rested everyone. This is more looking like a scenario of, maybe a Dallas-Philly, where it seems like they might have needed it, but they actually didn't have anything to play for. So we won't take that into account. Rams needed the game against the Cardinals, who did not. And this was a Wolford game, so that's a backup quarterback. I think they had already clinched in that one. Seahawks, Niners. I think Seahawks had already clinched. The Niners were already out, but the Niners play tough, always in the division, and that's the same reason I like them against the Rams. The Saints decimated a Panthers team that had nothing to do with anything. This was Saints needed it, Panthers didn't, and rout them. The Texans needed it. The Titans needed the game. The Texans didn't. Did they need it though? Maybe they had already clinched. It was for seeding. This is one of the weird ones, but it seems like an outlier to me of the Texans actually competing in this game. And they had Deshaun Watson, so that's a different story. But this is the only weird one that I can see where a team needed the game against a team that absolutely didn't, and it didn't end up in a blowout. Washington and the Eagles, meaningless game. But a lot of these, when the team needs the game and the other team doesn't, they take care of business. And then you have some wonky close stuff when either both teams need it or both teams don't. And again, this may change this year. It's an extra week. There's COVID involved. Every year is different. But it really does fortify the take the teams that need the game theory. And that's, again, it's not rocket scientists because they're working on rockets. But it's not rocket science either. And I know none of this is crazy, but sometimes you just got to take what's right in front of you and not complicate it. But we'll complicate it a little bit. I mean, you got to have some fun. Let's jump into the actual picks. We got 3. And I may add to that, and I may not. And at Mike Mush Sports is where you will find that out on Twitter. Follow the Instagram as well. And while you're at it, subscribe to the YouTube. I know you're watching. And since you're watching, you just click the little subscribe button. It's no big deal. You know what else you can do? It's click the notification bell. Why? Because the schedule is going to be a little wonky coming up. Playoffs are on. It's a new schedule. It's a new year. We don't know exactly when we're going to be live, but there's going to be videos. We're going to be breaking down the games. We're going to be talking sports. We're eventually going to get away from football and talk about basketball, and then we'll be back in baseball. There's a lot of stuff coming. So click that bell so you know when I'm going live. Or you can join the Discord, which will also tell you. It's a lot of stuff. Check out the description of the YouTube video. There's a lot there for you. And hit the like and leave a comment. Do all the stuff. Help the algorithm. Let's go. Let's get to the picks. Here's what I'm calling the Al Davis parlay. Just win, baby. Chiefs money line against the Broncos. Colts money line against the Jaguars. Titans money line against the Texans. Bills money line against the Jets. Bucks money line against the Panthers. 5-way money line parlays. All huge favorites. All teams that need the game against teams that don't. Plus 112. You're getting positive odds just to win all those games. Now, if you're scared of any of them, I would probably remove the Titans against the Texans, and you can still get pretty solid odds. It'll be minus 110, minus 120, something like that. I'm going to put all 5 in there. And if I decide to do an underdog parlay, it will just be to hedge against this kind of stuff. If I throw the Texans in there, if I throw the Steelers in there, if I throw, all the stuff we talked about. So we'll see about that. But yeah, Chiefs, Colts, Titans, Bills, Bucks. Plus 112. Just take care of business. All those teams might end up winning by 20. We move on to the We Still Care teaser. 7-point teaser. 3 teams. Chiefs -4 against the Broncos. We talked about that. Chiefs need the game. Broncos secondary is hurt by COVID, and Drew Lock is playing. So I don't want to lay the 11.5, but I'll bring it down to 4. Fairly key number, a half a key number anyway. Patriots I'm going to bring to plus half a point against the Dolphins. Again, I don't want to lay the full touchdown, but I am sure they're going to want to get revenge for that week 1 game, and they should be able to beat Tua. Mac Jones maybe has a prove-it game. Maybe he tries to steal the Offensive Rookie of the Year away from Jamar Chase because he held it most of the time, and Chase is now the favorite. So that's Chiefs, Patriots, and I'm putting the Bucks -1.5 against the Panthers in that teaser as well. So 7-point teaser, Chiefs, Patriots, Bucks, plus 140. I feel good about those odds. Then we're doing the take the points in the big games teaser. Another 7-point teaser. This one's only 2 teams. 49ers plus 11.5 at the Rams. I just think they battle. I can't imagine them rolling over in a game where they could make the playoffs. Even if their secondary is decimated. Look, if Cooper Kupp goes for 300 yards on 20 catches against a bunch of backup corners, then all right. But I think Stafford will throw a couple balls that could really turn the tide of the game in either direction. And I just think this should be at least a touchdown game. I mean, if the Niners lose by 14, that's a pretty big failure for them against a team that they've owned. So Niners plus 11.5, and then Raiders plus 10 against the Chargers. I just think that one will be close. Niners, Raiders, 7-point tease, -130. So those are the picks. Nothing straight up because there's a lot to worry about. We're going to stick with those. I may add, I may not. I may throw in an underdog parlay. That's probably the only one I'm looking at. Like I mentioned, the daily fantasy stuff, some cogs of your lineups should be Gronk, maybe Brady, although he's a little scarier because he might sit. But I like Gronk, and I definitely like Stephon Diggs because they both need some incentive stuff. I'm sure there's more of those. If you find them on Twitter, throw them at me. But that's what we're going with. It's Week 18. Nobody knows how to deal with Week 18, but if we come out on top, you better believe that I'm going to gloat about it, and I'll call myself the master of Week 18 in the NFL, and we'll use that title moving forward in a lot of the videos. It's the way it goes. You got to try something. Let's look forward to a winning week. We've had a bunch of them in a row. We haven't had a losing week in football in a long time. We took a bath maybe a month ago, but since then we've been hot. We've been hot on most all the picks. We even hit a couple basketball ones that I put on Twitter. Still doing those. We're going to get back to hoops. We're going to talk all the other sports once football wraps up. Again, I don't know exactly what the schedule will be like for the playoffs for football, but we're going to get there too, and we'll do deep breakdowns. I mean, next Friday we'll definitely have something before the games start on Saturday, but we'll do one midweek also, depending on where we're at with that. I don't know if it'll be a football one. Maybe we will work in a hoops for next week. Either way, subscribe, like it, leave a comment, come chat during the live stuff. Follow at Mike Mush Sports. Follow at the link_podcast if you want another podcast that I do. It's non-sports related, but it's about everything else, audio only. That's a fun one. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Have a good weekend. Peace out.